morning. Thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it. Okay, let's read. Zechariah chapter 4, verse 1 through chapter 5, verse 11. The angelic messenger, who had been speaking with me, then returned and woke me, as a person is wakened from sleep. He asked me, "What do you see?" I replied, "I see a menorah of pure gold, with a receptacle at the top and 7 lamps, with 14 pipes going to the lamps. There are also 2 olive trees beside it, one on the right of the receptacle, and the other on the left." Then I asked the messenger who spoke with me, "What are these, sir?" He replied, "Don't you know what these are?" So I responded, "No, sir." Therefore he told me, "These signify the word of the Lord to Zerubbabel, not by strength, and not by power, but by my Spirit, says the Lord who rules over all. What are you, you great mountain? Because of Zerubbabel you will become a level plain, and he will bring forth the temple capstone with shoutings of grace, grace, because of this." Moreover, the word of the Lord came to me as follows: "The hands of Zerubbabel have laid the foundations of this temple, and his hands will complete it. Then you will know that the Lord who rules over all has sent me to you. For who dares make light of small beginnings? These 7 eyes will joyfully look on the tin tablet in Zerubbabel's hand. These are the eyes of the Lord, which constantly range across the whole earth." Next, I asked the messenger, "What are these 2 olive trees on the right and the left of the menorah?" Before he could reply, I asked again, "What are these 2 extensions of the olive trees, which are emptying out the golden oil through the 2 golden pipes?" He replied, "Do you know what these are?" And I said, "No, sir." So he said, "These are the 2 anointed ones who stand by the Lord of the whole earth." Then I turned to look, and there was a flying scroll. Someone asked me, "What do you see?" I replied, "I see a flying scroll, 30 feet long and 15 feet wide." The speaker went on to say, "This is a curse traveling across the whole earth. For example, according to the curse, whoever steals will be removed from the community, or on the other hand, according to the curse, whoever swears falsely will suffer the same fate. I will send it out, says the Lord who rules over all, and it will enter the house of the thief and of the person who swears falsely in my name. It will land in the middle of his house and destroy both timber and stones." After this, the angelic messenger who had been speaking to me went and said, "Look, see what is leaving." I asked, "What is it?" And he replied, It is a basket for measuring grain that is moving away from here." Moreover, he said, "This is their eye throughout all the earth." Then a round lead cover was raised up, revealing a woman sitting inside the basket. He then said, "This woman represents wickedness," and he pushed her down into the basket and placed the lead cover on top. Then I looked again and saw 2 women going forth with the wind in their wings. They had wings like those of a stork, and they lifted up the basket between the earth and the sky. I asked the messenger who was speaking to me, "Where are they taking the basket?" He replied, "To build a temple for her in the land of Babylonia. When it is finished, she will be placed there in her own residence." Wow. Heavy imagery. So in the first image with the candlestick of gold and the 2 olive trees, apparently the olive trees were sustaining it, and Guzik made the assessment that in temple service, one of the most tedious things about it was that the the lampstand had to be constantly fed and trimmed because it always had to be burning. And this particular candlestick, lampstand, menorah, is fed by these two olive trees, which what they were to keep it fed by was olive oil. So this particular lampstand is being sustained not by human hands, but directly from the source. I always like chapter 4, verse 10. For who dares make light of small beginnings? These in the NASB, I think. For who has despised the day of small things, which I like, because small things are necessary in our lives. And I think it's important not to do things begrudgingly. Also, in chapter 5, you have 3 things. Well, I suppose 4. But the basket for measuring, the lead covering, and this woman. And the basket was for measuring grain. The lead weight lead was used as a measurement. So you have this these 2 things that are kind of hit on previously of measurement systems that are false and biased, being associated with injustice and also wickedness. So that was going to be taken out of, Jerusalem and prepared a place for in Babylon. Interesting. Okay, let's carry on. Revelation chapter 14, verses 1 through 20. Then I looked, and here was the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him were 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. I also heard a sound coming out of heaven like the sound of many waters, and like the sound of loud thunder. Now the sound I heard was like that made by harpists playing their harps. And they were singing a new song before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. No one was able to learn the song except the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who have not defiled themselves with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These were redeemed from humanity as firstfruits to God and to the Lamb, and no lie was found on their lips. They are blameless. Then I saw another angel flying directly overhead, and he had an eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth, to every nation, tribe, language, and people. He declared in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has arrived, and worship the one who made heaven and earth, the sea, and the springs of water." A second angel followed the first, declaring, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the great city. She made all the nations drink of the wine of her immoral passion." A third angel followed the first 2, declaring in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast in his image, and takes the mark on his forehead or his hand, that person will also drink of the wine of God's anger that has been mixed undiluted in the cup of his wrath, and he will be tortured with fire and sulfur in front of the holy angels and in front of the Lamb, and the smoke from their torture will go up forever and ever, and those who worship the beast in his image will have no rest day or night, along with anyone who receives the mark of his name. This requires the steadfast endurance of the saints, those who obey God's commandments and hold to their faith in Jesus. Then I heard a voice from heaven say, "Write this, blessed are the dead, those who die in the Lord from this moment on. Yes, says the Spirit, so they can rest from their hard work, because their deeds will follow them." Then I looked, and a white cloud appeared, and seated on the cloud was one like a son of man. He had a golden crown on his head, and a sharp sickle in his hand. Then another angel came out of the temple, shouting in a loud voice to the one seated on the cloud, "Use your sickle and start to reap, because the time to reap has come, since the earth's harvest is ripe." So the one seated on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped. Then another angel came out of the temple in heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. Another angel who was in charge of the fire came from the altar and called in a loud voice to the angel who had the sharp sickle, "Use your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes off the vine of the earth, because its grapes are now ripe." So the angel swung his sickle over the earth and gathered the grapes from the vineyard of the earth and tossed them into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Then the winepress was stomped outside the city, and blood poured out of the winepress up to the height of a horse's bridles for a distance of almost 200 miles. Oof. Interesting. Just sounds like the time of the end. Yeah. And I guess again, the imagery that stands out to me is that of the cup being presented to the nations, of the results of your labor becoming manifest. And in this particular case, that was wrath. Okay, let's carry on. Psalm 142, verses 1 through 7. To the Lord I cry out. To the Lord I plead for mercy. I pour out my lament before him. I tell him about my troubles. Even when my strength leaves me, you watch my footsteps. In the path where I walk, they have hidden a trap for me. Look to the right and see. No one cares about me. I have nowhere to run. No one is concerned about my life. I cry out to you, O Lord. I say, you are my shelter, my security in the land of the living. Listen to my cry for help, for I am in serious trouble. Rescue me from those who chase me, for they are stronger than I am. Free me from prison, that I may give thanks to your name. Because of me, the godly will assemble, for you will vindicate me. Yeah. There's lots of psalms about being delivered from enemies, which I don't have a huge background in the Psalms, but I think the later Psalms are written after the period of captivity, or during the period of captivity. And so it makes sense that you have Israel pleading to be vindicated or saved from their enemies, given that their enemies are present before them. Okay, Proverbs 21 through 23. Under 3 things the earth trembles, and under 4 things it cannot bear up. Under a servant who becomes king, under a fool who is stuffed with food, under an unloved woman who is married, and under a female servant who dispossesses her mistress. Difficult to understand. Guzik says that So there are four things that are fundamentally not right. Servant when he reigns. He meant a man with a debased mind who thought and lived as a slave instead of a free man. A fool when he is filled with food. When a fool is satisfied, it only rewards his folly and gives him the energy and the resources to be even more foolish. An unloved woman when she is married. This is unbearable because she shouldn't have found a husband, and there seems to be a fundamental injustice when she does. This points to an odious, quarrelsome, unlovable woman whom society rejects, the opposite of a prudent wife. Yeah, and then you have the maidservant who succeeds her mistress, which, if you know about the story with Abraham and Hagar, you know that that wasn't a good situation. Okay, well, thank you for joining me today. Appreciate it. Bye.